Good morning, and thank you once again for joining me this fine Thursday morning. You can catch me every week on Voluntary Virtues, Thursday, 6:30 Pacific Standard Time and 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can also catch my written word every Monday on globalwealthprotection.com. So, the last week I had talked about the difference between justice and vengeance, and I think this week is going to be more of an extension of that, only because the issue of torture has once again resurfaced, with, I guess, more information coming out about the methods by which our government, the U.S. government, has interrogated its people, or interrogated more so, I mean, when I say its people, I mean the people it apprehends, right? And I think there are a couple of things that kind of came to mind that I wanted to share with you. First of all, torture was one of those turning points for me. In terms of my, I guess, philosophical journey toward liberty, torture was the one where at one point I got stuck. Yeah, I come from I don't come from a neoconservative background per se. My parents are fairly liberal, but I held this neoconservative belief at one point about many things, and I thought patriotism was certainly a virtue at that time. And of course, with that came several other beliefs. And so my belief in torture, or at least my acceptance of torture, was predicated on several lies to begin with, and one of which was that these methods would lead to information that could save lives. Right? And of course, we're all told that. We don't all believe it, but certainly we're all told that through the media and through the punditry and through mouthpieces of the U.S. government, that these methods work, that they get viable information out, and that but for these techniques, countless lives would be lost, right? I don't know when that exact moment clicked, but I will say I could probably give some kudos to Hollywood, because I saw a movie with Jake Gyllenhaal in it called Rendition. And while this movie was not particularly great, it did explain what was happening and how, and some of the things that rendition is. Rendition is real. I mean, it's where the United States takes people to other countries where it's acceptable to interrogate people, or with a certain method, so they're not really breaking the law. It's a technicality. It's basically, the United States operating on a legal technicality to get away with certain behaviors, right? So, whereas if they did that here in the United States, it would be condemned outright. Doing this in Egypt or doing this in some other country, not as bad, right? That's why we have Guantanamo Bay. We have Guantanamo Bay in Cuba because we can't have this detention center in the United States. Not because people don't want these people in the United States. We've got plenty of dangerous people locked up here in the United States, but they want those people who've never been charged, who've never seen a trial. Once they come here in the United States, they'd be entitled to a trial. That's something the United States is trying to avoid. Okay, so once again, we're trying to get off on a legal technicality more so than trying to take a moral high ground. And so I started to think about it. At first, the rendition, I thought, God, talk about liberal Hollywood. That was my initial response to that movie. But as I thought about it, I came to the realization that a few things. One is that some of the facts involved with torture was that there was no effectiveness to it, that you weren't getting real information anymore. In the movie, this totally innocent man of Egyptian descent is ultimately, is tortured, but he ultimately gives the names on his grade school soccer team just to shut them up and leave them alone for a little bit. He lies. He just makes something up and gives them a list of names, and the only names he could think of were all members of his 12-year-old soccer team. You know? And it says, and so I have to wonder, at what point would anybody basically admit to the killing of Abraham Lincoln? You know, I mean, if pushed to that point, under what level of duress could you get them to commit to admit to anything, right? I mean, under enough stress, and that's the question of anything. Would you, under enough stress, do something that you otherwise wouldn't do? Okay. And does it make it right that you had to do that? Does it make it right that you did it at all? For example, does it make it right that he lied about this list? No, it doesn't make it right. But at the same time, you say, well, does it give me any level of relief from what I'm enduring now? Yes. Right? And you at least sympathize with that. Now, I came to the conclusion that torture is unacceptable. It's just off the table, period. Okay, it's off the table. If you can't find the information you need out there without beating it out of somebody else or tormenting somebody else or humiliating somebody else, then I guess that information is not going to get found. That's it. Well, what if they were planning another 9/11? What if they were? What if they were? That's right. People are going to go around doing bad shit. You're not, and you going about, in the United States, going about doing bad shit to prevent other bad shit makes no sense. That's like committing a crime just in case you were going to commit a crime. I killed you just in case you were going to kill me. Not because I thought you were going to really kill me. There was no actual threat that you were going to kill me. But I suspect that you might one day. So I'm going to kill you now. You can't do that. I can't. I'm not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. Certainly, I have no moral compunction to go out and do something like that. Right? But this is the United States foreign policy, and that is preemptive action. So preemptive action is basically the Minority Report. We've got 3 psychics lying in a pool that tell us that you're going to do something, therefore we need to arrest you now and detain you. Right? That there is no self-determination, that there is no other way, and that we're not punishing crimes anymore, we're punishing thoughts. We're not just punishing thoughts anymore, we're punishing you by suspicion alone. Right? And the greatest appeal of voluntarism was the moral high ground. That was it. That was the ultimate selling point for me, was the moral high ground. Do I win the intellectual debate? Because that's the only debate. Like, amongst human beings, what separates human beings from other animals? Reason. Right? Do I win the debate on the merits of reason? No, not as a neoconservative, I don't. Because I don't know if you remember, but I certainly do, meme after meme on Facebook talking about this poor, I think it was a Marine, who was stuck in a Mexican prison. Stuck in a Mexican prison, everybody's bitching about how Obama's going to let every Mexican in except for the one guy who wants to come back, who happens to be an American, sitting in a Mexican prison. And he's a soldier, to boot, which makes it doubly bad because soldier and cop lives are somehow more important than some schlep, right? Okay. So everybody went batshit crazy over the fact that, Obama wasn't doing anything to bring this guy back. Meanwhile, Mexican immigrants are walking 2 by 2 across the border and coming into the United States. And I'm thinking, wow, you went absolutely apeshit over the fact that he was just sitting in a Mexican jail. But you don't even give it a second thought, neoconservative, that we're doing this to countless, probably undisclosed numbers of Middle Eastern men and women. So you're sitting here bitching and moaning and wetting yourself over the fact that one member of our military is sitting in a Mexican jail. Like, this is just fucking unjust. This is the highest level of injustice that could ever be perpetrated, right? Click like and share if you think Obama's a traitor for letting this guy sit in a Mexican jail. Meanwhile, the double standard of the neoconservative comes to play when you have the United States doing the same thing to citizens of another country, right? Middle Eastern countries, various Middle Eastern countries, I assume. And they're sitting, rotting away in Guantanamo Bay without so much as a trial or a charge. Not even a charge, just a suspicion. That's enough, right? And they're sitting and rotting away in Guantanamo Bay. Guantanamo Bay, which, by the way, Obama was supposed to close down and didn't. So liberals, don't be cheering on right now, saying, yeah, what she said about the neocon. Yeah, well, fuck you too, because Obama was supposed to close Gitmo and he didn't. So y'all can all just suck a bag of dicks. It pisses me off all the way across the board, from the liberals down to the neoconservatives. The whole damn thing needs to be shut down, okay? Now, at some point, I reached the conclusion that this is unacceptable foreign policy. But I reached that conclusion because I didn't like it as a domestic policy, as it turns out. Now, torture unto itself, okay, torture unto itself is bad to me. But the way I came to that conclusion was not through the empathy of the person who's afraid for their life, but the person who's being tortured. Yes, yes, I know. This is kind of a big deal. Everybody, I've been on Threads this whole week over this discussion of the CIA torture, and I'm thinking, this comes back to my discussion last week. Just because somebody behaves criminally does not give you a free pass to go and be a criminal to them back. Criminal behavior is criminal behavior. It doesn't matter how justified you feel. It's still criminal. Okay. So we don't get to go violating people's natural rights simply because they violated or might have violated or are thinking about violating or know a guy or share a mosque with somebody who happens to might have violated somebody's right. I mean, we don't get to do that. Not in a civilized society. You don't win the reason debate that way. Okay. Now you're just a barbarian. It's just barbaric. That's it. It's just barbaric. You're telling me that these people, it's for national security and safety. So so these arguments are coming up, and it's funny because I look back on my neoconservative days and I recognize the argument. I do. I recognize it. It's almost as if I see myself in those arguments, because at one point that was me making that same claim. First one was, well, how would you feel? Your child died in the 9/11, in the Twin Towers, right? And I'd feel horrible. I'd feel horrible if my child died under any circumstance, right? I'd feel terrible if my child died due to cancer. I'd feel terrible if my child died in a car accident and a drunk driver hit them. I would feel terrible if my child died and they were the drunk. I would feel terrible no matter what. If my child died, it wouldn't matter how they died. I'd feel terrible. What the fuck? I mean, I don't have grades of remorse and depression based on how my kid died. I feel just as bad no matter how my kid died. What the fuck are you thinking, asking that question? So I said, I really don't care how my kid dies. If they die, I'm feeling bad about it. And I'm feeling equally bad no matter what, because I suffer the same loss. Okay? Well, what if you had a chance to get back at them? I don't want a chance to get back at them. I want a chance to move on and get over it. I still have a life to live. I'm still alive. So I have a life to live. And I was put on this earth for a far greater purpose than vengeance. What do you think? I was a sleeper cell sitting here for 37 years waiting for an opportunity to avenge something? No, I've got other shit to do. And perhaps my life will be a tribute to my child then. I might change my course a little bit. I might do some, I might go, my child said, I've always wanted to go to Portugal. Then I would say, okay, In remembrance of my child, I'm going to Portugal and I'm going to see the sights and I'm going to learn the language and I'm going to live there or retire or whatever. I'll do something in tribute of my child, but I certainly won't go, I want to live a life of tribute, not a life of vengeance. But okay. So they said, well, then they said, well, don't expect that kind of treatment if you were ever captured by ISIS. I don't expect I don't expect any sort of mercy if I'm caught by ISIS or any other country in the world. I don't expect mercy from a government, and I don't expect mercy from a radical group, and I don't expect mercy from anybody who would go out and capture me for some reason and want to interrogate me. If anybody sits there and kidnaps me and interrogates me, I can already write off the notion of mercy anyway. I don't expect mercy from my own fucking police department. In the United States, I don't expect mercy from my own fucking government as an American on American soil. So no, you're right. I don't expect it from anybody else. If somebody kidnaps me and decides to interrogate me, the fact that the conditions might be better or worse in one location or another doesn't really negate the fact that they're willing to take it to as much of an extreme as possible to get what they want out of me, or what they think they can get out of me anyway, or what they think I know. So telling me that ISIS won't show me any mercy, neither will most other governments. Neither will most other radical groups. Neither will my police departments. So what's your point there? They're all wrong, though. That's my point. That they're sitting there treating people like punching bags until they can get their way. And of course, they have to trivialize it as well, right? Oh, this guy just got his head slowly severed off of his body by an ISIS militant. And meanwhile, we're just splashing water on these guys. Splashing water? Right. Like when you spank your kids, you're really just giving them a high five on their ass. Uh-huh. You don't do these things because they feel good. If it was just splashing water, you wouldn't get anything from it. Just like if you high-fived your kid after doing something wrong that you think is wrong, that wasn't going to really do much either to correct their to correct their behavior. I love it. I love how people backpedal when they want to defend something. I mean, how fucking stupid do you think I am? Apparently very. Because the same backpedaling that people give me when they want to explain and rationalize spanking is the same rationale, believe it or not. Different words, different, it's window dressing. It's blue curtains instead of red, but basically the same thing. They're telling me, oh, well, they're not, it's you call it waterboarding, but really it's just splashing water on somebody. Really? You mean to tell me that I can dip my hand in some water, flick it in somebody's face, and they'll start confessing every bad deed they've ever done? What is that, fucking holy water now? Is that what that is? Is it really just an exorcism? Am I meant to believe this superstitious shit? Is it magic water? Confession water? They just splash water on them. They just pour water over their heads. Really? They take the ice bucket challenge and then they give them their answers? That's how it works? Is that what really is going on? Are you selling this to anybody? Is anybody buying this from you? Holy shit. No, 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 no. Waterboarding is meant to give you the feeling of drowning. It's meant to make you feel like you're drowning. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever felt what it's like to almost drown. Okay? But it is the scariest feeling I've ever felt. I've been through I've felt some shit. Okay? I've born 3 kids, naturally, biting on a belt, for God's sakes. And I would sooner take labor pains over that. And there were times in my life where I felt like I was drowning. I got a small amount of water stuck in my throat while I was swimming. I'm underwater, and I honestly thought, holy shit, I can't breathe. I mean, that's the first thing. That's the first reaction I had was, holy shit, I can't breathe. And like everything I could to get out of water and just get up and just, I would one time I threw myself on the ground. I just jumped and dropped on the ground to see if I could just get anything out. I tried to wind myself just to get it out so I could keep breathing. Okay. The shit I went through just to breathe. And those are under accidental circumstances, self-imposed. I was in a panic. You can't help but panic. I don't think you can. I don't think you can condition yourself to drown and not panic. Because instinctively, your body is thinking you're about to die. If something doesn't change in the next couple of minutes, shit's about to get real. And by real, I mean real dead. So to equate it to splashing water on somebody is like equating a spanking or a lashing to a high five. Okay? Moral equivalence is such a bogus attempt at trying to rationalize foul behavior. Then somebody tells me, well, I don't believe in universal rights. Do you believe in rights at all? I mean, if you're a nihilist, just say so. We'll end this conversation, because fucking I have no time for that shit. Yeah, nothing exists. Everything's a hologram. Thank you, nihilists. Carry on. But for everybody else, okay, do you believe in any rights? I mean, so if you were to be arrested, do you believe you have any rights? If not, then you're fucked. Because if you don't believe you have any rights, then there's nothing anybody can do to you that's wrong. Then you're nothing more than an inanimate object. You're like a rock. I could throw you. I could crush you. I could taser it. I could do anything I want to a rock. Nobody gives a shit. I could shoot a rock. A tin can. I could shoot a tin can. I could stab a tin can. I could do whatever I want to a tin can. There's nothing immoral about it. There's nothing wrong with it. No, some people would probably say, what the hell is she doing with a tin can? But there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Nobody would do anything about it. Nobody would say, holy shit, what are you doing to that poor can? Nobody would come to its aid. Nobody would do anything. So if you're saying that you have no rights to anything, then you've basically just, relinquished your moral agency? I don't know. Sounds like it. And rights, the right to remain silent, the right to due process, the right to defend yourself, all these things. These rights are not American rights. These aren't privileges of a special club. They are rights. There's a difference between a right and a privilege. And you would do well to know the difference. You would do well, because this is not just semantic two-stepping. There is a considerable difference between a privilege and a right. A right is inalienable. It's universal. It is defined by the species to which it is ascribed. It's given to humans. That means it's a human right. When you call it a human right, that means any human. A natural right. It's something that naturally occurs. You have a right to your own life. You have a right to defend it. You have a right to sustain it. Those are rights. You have a right to freely travel. You have a right to speak. You have a right not to speak. You have a right to associate. You have a right to disassociate. These are all things that are true of every human being, not just ones that happen to be on American soil. Because if they are just for people on American soil with a special membership card, then that's called a privilege. If I'm a member of a social club, then I have the privilege of being able to use their golf course and their tennis courts and their pools and their spas. If I'm not a member, I do not have the privilege of accessing those things in those facilities. I'd be trespassing. Those are called privileges. It's something you have on private property. Privileges. Coming into my house is a privilege, not a right. It's a privilege. It can be taken away by me, right? By the property owner. So, torture in particular. This idea that we can humiliate and hurt somebody to such extent and to somehow feel like it's some Machiavelli, I don't know, acceptable behavior. It's barbaric. It's barbaric. It is not even barbaric. Animals don't torture one another to get information. They fight each other over certain very specific limited lists of things. And somebody either backs down or they fight to the death. They don't fucking torture each other. They'll sit there and just see if they could. Now, okay, to be fair, that's not true. I've seen cats. Cats are assholes. They literally play with their prey until they fucking threaten them for hours until they kill them. Never mind. But you get what I mean. This is not to think that we're going to get something out of this is tragic. And so I hear these arguments in proponency of torture. And part of me is like embarrassed that I ever made the argument myself at one point. And the other part of me is saying, thank God I'm not there anymore. But another part of me still says, where is this cognitive dissonance? Where can people like myself, like-minded people who share this belief, who do not believe in torture, what point, and what is it exactly? What can we say? How can we reason to put an end to this cognitive dissonance, this double standard? The empathy isn't supposed to be with the supposed victim or potential victim. The empathy also has to be with the person who's being accused. It's not supposed to be one-sided. It's supposed to be holistic. Okay? So in the event that you have the misfortune of being brought up and born into a name like Abrahimi, okay, a Muhammad, when you have that last name and brown skin, and that person just wants to go home and visit their family or come to the United States and take a picture in front of the Empire State Building, or wants to go to school here, or just wants to live a life. What of that person? Well, you think there's only one Muhammad in the Middle East? One person named Muhammad? There's only one person with the last name Ibrahim? There's only one Fatima, you know? There's only one Khalid? I don't think so. That's like John and Jennifer out here. You don't get to destroy people, break people, just in case. Crime for the sake of preventing crime. What you've just done is switched it out. You've said, okay, this person was going to kill 500 people, potentially. So instead, I tortured 500 people to prevent that from happening. I committed a crime against 500 people here so that this person would not commit a crime against the 500 over here. I don't feel better about that. I don't feel safer. It's not an acceptable domestic policy, so it's not an acceptable foreign policy. If I don't want it in my own backyard, I sure as fuck wouldn't wish it on anybody else out there. I don't wish torture on anyone. It's not like if I was tortured, I would say, I wish you were tortured too so that you'd understand how I feel. No, it's so bad, I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Not even my own torturer. No one should experience that psychologically or physically. No one should be tormented that way for any reason. It's off the table. It's not keeping anyone safer. Because in the meantime, there is a victim. It's not like you reduce the number of victims by doing this. You've changed who the victims are. That's not safety. You're saying that these are more expendable victims than American victims or Western European victims. So what we're saying is that we're better. We're more important. Our lives are more important than your lives. That you're quantifying this in action. The United States is quantifying this. You could, I mean, if you want to call it institutional racism, go right ahead. I don't see how you can make an argument against it. Not with the pieces laid out the way they are. Reason is a wonderful tool. It really is. And it's what separates us from everything, from every other living thing on earth. It's painfully underutilized, and for whatever reason, for as pathetic as human beings are in comparison to every other animal in terms of brute force, we still think that we want to be the brute force as well. When that's not what we were designed to be. We were not designed to be brutes. We were designed to be reasoning people and individuals. We were designed to think our way through our problems because we didn't have any physical advantage otherwise in the world compared to any other animal. We don't have brute strength the way an elephant does. We don't have the speed of a cheetah. We don't have the agility of a chimpanzee. We don't have these things. So all we have is our mind. And it's the most underutilized thing. Yet every other animal plays to its strength. I think we can be a little better than that. Because if we can't, then, I mean, fuck. Where's humanity? You know, I mean, humanity will be a myth. Will be something, you know, you tell your kids about that once it existed long, long ago. Well, have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Have a great holiday. Merry Christmas, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.